if there is anyone here who can take videos of the speeches, separate videos, please do so and let us know at the end so that we have some footage. So hi everyone, thank you for coming. We are Israeli anti-occupation, anti-apartheid activists living in New York City. We've had a long night following the news, texting with our families, overwhelmed with anxiety and uncertainty. And for a moment, we weren't sure if we would protest as usual today. We were in uncharted territory. This feels very surreal with the music right now. Very surreal. Wow. But here we are. We are here because no one should stay up all night fearing missiles, rockets, or bombs falling on them from the skies. Not in Gaza, not in Jenin, and not in Tel Aviv. We are here for Amina al-Hassouni, a 7-year-old girl who was injured by a missile shrapnel last night and is fighting for her life. It was an Iranian missile, but it is the Israeli state that has neglected its Bedouin communities for decades. There are no protected shelters in her village, nowhere to go. We are here because we have no trust in the Israeli government. Instead of focusing on bringing back the hostages, they're assassinating Iranian generals. Why? Escalating and expanding this already terrifying and tragic war. Journalist Ronen Bergman reported today that a source with knowledge of the current Israeli discussions on Iran said, quote, "If the talks were broadcast live on YouTube, you'd have 4 million people clamoring at Ben Gurion Airport trying to get out of here." The Israeli government scares us. We're here to tell them, don't escalate the situation with Iran and stop distracting. Work on a hostage deal, on a ceasefire agreement. Lift the siege on Gaza and end the occupation. So much has been going on this week besides Iran. More and more children in Gaza are dying from Israel's imposed starvation and ethnic cleansing in the West Bank villages. And the ethnic cleansing in West Bank villages has reached new heights. One can barely keep up with the horrors. When we started protesting back in November, we did not think that 6 months later we'd still be here every week. Let alone that we would have to come up with new signs and new chants to respond to the expansion of this war, to the new horrifying acts by the Israeli government that just keep coming. And of course, who would have thought that we would still have 133 hostages at this point? Busha, 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 busha. In our protests, we host speakers and organizations from a wide range of ideologies, with a wide range of ideas about the long-term plans for Israel-Palestine. But one thing is crystal clear to all of us, and every week more community leaders, politicians, and organizations are joining this call. Ceasefire has to happen now. Hostage deal has to happen now. Ceasefire now! 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 Bring them home! 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 People are dying by the minute, and we have no time to waste. In the meantime, we'll be here every Sunday until the war ends. Thank you again, all, for coming.
Thank you so much for coming out here today. I was conscripted into the IDF Air Force during COVID in August of 2020. Our Tiranut, our basic training, contained the biggest heat wave in Israeli history. 3 people in my unit fainted from heat stroke as we stood out in the blistering sun in our COVID masks. I did not want to be there, but not because of the heat or the masks or because of the time away from home. Rather, I deferred my service to go to yeshiva and refused to enlist in combat because of something that in my community in Israel was too taboo to talk about. My community was a settlement where my family continues to live. In the settlements, going into the IDF is an honor and a privilege, and as an American Ola, it was also assured to me to be a rite of passage. Join the military, and through that, you will become truly Israeli. What's more, joining the IDF was a foregone conclusion. Everyone drafts, everyone serves, unless you are a religious woman or a man so devoted to Torah that you don't even want to work a secular job. Those who received exemptions for medical reasons, including for mental health reasons, were expected to volunteer to join the IDF anyway. Anything short of that was considered a mark of shame. And here I was, doing my best to articulate why I didn't want to serve. I grew up learning that we were Hachi Musari Ba'olam, the most moral army in the world. Soldiers were my neighbors, friends, Bnei Kiva counselors, and cousins. And yet, living in a settlement, I saw with my own eyes how our Palestinian neighbors were mistreated, abused, discriminated against, and were impoverished. How much fear, anger, and hatred was felt from the settlement towards them. They were treated like a problem, the Palestinian question. I saw that when things were quiet, nothing changed for peace, and instead, Israel would build even more settlements, argue for greater control over the West Bank, and seek greater legitimacy on the international stage. And when things rose to violence, there were terror attacks, and Israel would use their newfound control to crack down hard as a part of a failed strategy of deterrence. These were not moral actions, and this strategy does not promote peace nor safety, but death and destruction, trading the lives of Jews and Israelis, Palestinians and Arabs for power. Shame. Busha. 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 2 weeks after being deployed to my air base, the closest combat air base to the border with Gaza, trained as a munitions and explosives technician for the F-16 fighter jets, I was asked to load bombs on a jet to be dropped on targets in Gaza. It was March of 2021, and this was a preliminary strike in what would be called Operation Shomer Chomot, Guardian of the Walls. It would kill 260 Palestinians and 11 Israelis, the majority of whom were civilians. At that moment, I refused to serve in the IDF anymore. I refused.
Thank you for your service.
I refuse to participate in a military that tries to solve conflict and disagreement through war and violence. There is no military solution. This deterrence policy was the policy of the Netanyahu government before, and all the more so, and in a more aggressive form, it is the strategy of the government now with Ben Gvir and Smotrich. They sacrifice the lives of Israelis, and they sacrifice the lives of many, many Palestinians to reach a point of absolute state power. They promise security and deliver the opposite, authoritarianism. They are very open about wanting to cleanse the land of Israel, Gaza, and the West Bank of all Palestinians who dare challenge their power from the river to the sea. And while the most brutal and devastating tactics of starvation, indiscriminate bombing, and war are reserved for their Palestinian victims, they do not stop with them. Israeli dissenters are arrested for flying Palestinian flags, for hanging posters calling for peace in Arabic. Because of my conscientious objection, I was court-martialed 8 times, leading to 6 military imprisonments over the course of 4 months.
Thank you.
During my second imprisonment, the Refuser Solidarity Network, Mr. Vogt, was able to contact me and help me get to an eventual discharge. Today, they are assisting and advocating for Tal Mitnick and Sophia Orr, who are currently and bravely conscientiously objecting to this immoral war as they too sit in military prison. We are here today to call for an end to the war and for a return of the hostages. These are objectives that are connected strategically through an immediate bilateral ceasefire, but they are also connected at their core message. When we call for these things, we call on Israel, and by that I mean the Israeli government here, to put the lives and safety of innocent people over abstract and undefined slogans that license force. We call on Israel to fulfill its promise of protecting the lives of Israelis and Jews, not endangering them. We call on Israel to sanctify all civilian life, to stop the killing, the crimes against humanity, and worse. We call on Israel to understand that there is no security without peace, no safety without coexistence, and no equality under occupation. For me, the core message of what we are trying to say is that the destinies of the Jewish and Israeli and Palestinian people are intertwined. War and killing are not the answer, they are counterproductive to secure, flourishing lives for everyone. Endless conflict and war secure only one thing: power for those who deserve it least. The cycle of violence is designed to keep authoritarians and even fascists in power they otherwise could not keep. Bibi, Smotrich, and Ben-Gvir are extending this war not for Israel, but for themselves, to punish anyone who opposes them and to have an excuse to hold on power. The real Israelis look out for Israel. They look out for human rights. It is time for Bibi to resign, for Israel to hold elections, and to get our hostages home to their families. It is time for an end to the war, to the humanitarian crisis in Gaza, to the starvation, civilian killing, and crimes against humanity. The best time for a ceasefire was months ago. The second best time is now. Bring them home. Ceasefire now. Ceasefire now. Ceasefire now. Ceasefire now.
Ceasefire now! 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 Our futures are intertwined, Israel and Palestine! Our futures are intertwined, Israel and Palestine! Our futures are intertwined, Israel and Palestine! Our futures are
they will never care. They will always eat us. They don't care about how much we stop. They don't care how much we quit.
I'm Rabbi Jill Jacobs. I'm the CEO of Trua, which organizes rabbis across the country for human rights. First of all, thank you, Aharon. We've gotten to know each other a little bit through your work at Columbia, through your leadership, but I did not know that part of your story, so thank you so much for sharing it with us today. I want to start, as I walked in, I told Rabbi Amichai a story that just happened a few minutes before, and he told me that I have to tell it to all of you. So I accidentally went to Washington Square Park because I was just not paying attention. And I was walking through the park looking for you all, but you weren't there because you're here. And I heard a voice behind me of this guy, like a bro, like shirt off, you know, like total bro, saying, "What does your shirt say?" And I ignored him because I don't usually talk to random men in parks. And then I heard him ask again. And so I turned around and I explained to him, if you can't see, my shirt says, that there is no mitzvah as great as redemption of hostages, of captives. It's a shirt that was produced by Smol Emuni, by the religious left movement in Israel. And so I turned around and I explained it to him, and I explained why there needs to be a hostage deal, and that's a ceasefire, and why that's good for Israelis and Palestinians. And I said I'm on my way to a gathering of people who want what's best for both Israelis and Palestinians, that you don't have to choose. And he just looked at me and he said, "Well, that makes complete sense." And he said, "Everybody should think like that." And he said, "And thank you for explaining what your shirt says." So it was a message to me, a reminder to me that I should not judge people, and also that our coalition is even broader than we think. Even people who are just hanging out without their shirts in Washington Square Park are also part of this group. So like many of you, probably most of you, I was up late last night texting family and friends to make sure that everybody was okay, and just really terrified by what's happening. And of course, Israel can't control who its neighbors are, but we can, of course, the government can, of course, control its reaction. And my fear, of course, now that we've moved beyond the immediate threat of yesterday, is what's going to happen next, and particularly what's going to happen next with the government that we have in power that has made it clear over the past many months, even before this war, but certainly over the last 6 months, that it certainly doesn't care about Palestinians in Gaza or in the West Bank, but also doesn't care about their own citizens. It's hard to think about celebrating Pesach, the holiday of liberation, in this moment. How do we celebrate liberation when we're 6 months into a war that's taken already the lives of more than 32,000 Palestinians in Gaza, the 1,200 Israelis who were murdered on October 7th, the more than 600 Israeli soldiers who have been killed, just where the deaths are just beyond what we possibly can comprehend, and where there's unfortunately no end in sight. So how do we celebrate liberation in this moment? So the story of Pesach has lessons for us for every single generation. And one thing that I'm thinking about a lot now is all of the time that the Israelites spent in Mitzrayim. We focus, of course, on the moment of liberation, but there were hundreds of years before that when people didn't remember anything besides being slaves. They had been enslaved, their parents, their grandparents, their children. It was hard to remember any other possibility. So how do you keep that faith for hundreds and hundreds of years that there's going to be a future? Now, our rabbinic tradition tells us a few things about this. It says that the Israelites never forgot who they were. They never changed their names. They never forgot their language. There's even some midrashim that say that they passed around material, written material, promising that there would be a liberation, that they were whispering among themselves that someday liberation was going to come. But that wasn't all. Of course, they also took action. They took action by crying out. That was what started the liberation, that God heard their cries. We have the midwives who did civil disobedience against Pharaoh in order to save the lives of Israelite babies. We have Moshe and Aharon, and ultimately all of the people who are willing to take big risks in order to move toward liberation. So we're unfortunately in a moment when much of the Israeli government has forgotten their names, maybe not literally, but they've forgotten who they are. We have a prime minister, who forgot what it means to be a Jew, who has forgotten that what it means to be a Jew is to save other Jews, who's forgotten that for generations, for hundreds and hundreds of years, Jewish communities prioritize saving hostages above everything else, saving captives not even from their own communities, but from other Jewish communities. That this is the social contract on which the state of Israel was built, that this is a place that's going to keep Jews safe. We have a prime minister and a government who have forgotten that also we have responsibilities as Jews toward the rest of the world, that it is not the Jewish thing to do to completely disrespect human life. We know from the Talmud that anybody who destroys a human life, and it says any person, right, a human life, not just a Jew, in the at least original text, that anybody who destroys a human life, it's as if they destroyed an entire world, because that person might have descendants, right? They've destroyed an entire world that could have come from that person. So we have a government that has forgotten what it means to live out our Jewish values, that has forgotten what it means to protect the Jewish people. So we need, first of all, elections immediately. Elections now. This government has to go. We need a negotiated bilateral ceasefire that will end the bombing, that will end the warfare, and that will bring our hostages home, God willing, so they can celebrate Pesach or soon afterwards with their families. It's hard to imagine that the Israelites were in Mitzrayim for hundreds of years, whispering among themselves that liberation would come someday. And it's hard to imagine that 6 months later, more than 6 months later, we're still out here hoping that liberation comes to both Israelis and Palestinians. But we are going to continue to believe, and as we celebrate Pesach, we're going to recommit to all of us showing up to bring about that liberation.
Sorry, I can't die. Now I understand.
All kids deserve to play. Ceasefire, ceasefire today.
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 All kids deserve to play. כל יום שעובר מסכן אותם יותר.
Killing me.
Don't get in front of the camera, please.
Yeah, that's a camera.
Hey everybody, thank you so much for being here on this very difficult day. I'm going to say a couple of words, but my name is Gili. I'm Israeli for Peace. And I really appreciate you all being here. If that's okay, if we can start with a chant for the families of the hostages that they chant in Israel, in Kaplan, and around the country, where the police trying to beat up the families. The chant is Et Kulam Achshav. I'll videoate it and send it to our friends in Israel and the family. So Et Kulam Achshav means everyone now. Et Kulam Achshav. Et Kulam Achshav. Et Kulam Achshav. Et Kulam Achshav. Shout so they can hear us in Tel Aviv. Achshav. Et Kulam 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 Achshav. Thank you. Thank you again for being in this space. Thank you for Israelis for Peace. Thank you for the space where we hold the pain and the struggle of both Palestinians and Israelis in these very dark times. We, Israeli and American Jews, who have families and friends under enormous threat and fear in Israel and Palestine, call from here to anyone who would listen. Stop the war now! 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 Save the remaining hostages. Let Gaza live. Enough with this madness. Enough! Last night, many of us watched terrified as our families and friends were under Iranian attack on Israel with drones and missiles sent as a retaliation to the Israeli bombing of Syria in response to Hezbollah bombing in the north, and on and on. Violence and escalation will bring more violence and escalation. We were thankful as Israelis and relieved that American and Jordanian and European planes and anti-missile systems helped protect Israelis from being bombed and killed. Jordan, not that long ago, has fired rockets at Israel and is now, because of a negotiated peace agreement, is protecting Israel. Demonstrating the truth that peace and negotiated agreements bring security. And I like to ask here, and I like to ask anybody that were here, where is that same level of protection for Palestinian civilians in Gaza? From bombs, from mass starvation. Where is that protection for Palestinians in the West Bank from settler terrorism? Where? Endless war, revenge killing and terror and mass starvation will not keep anyone safe or anyone free. It will continue to bring destruction and death and more suffering and less freedom for all. To everyone, from the river to the sea. So we call from here to anyone who would listen, to anyone with position of power. Help us stop this war now. 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 War has no winners. War has no winners. for our families and friends watching in horror as an Israeli government of criminals, supremacists, fanatics, sociopaths, and sadistic extremists is abandoning the hostages to die and destroying Israel by escalating a regional war. Shame! 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 Busha! 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 We are here for the families of the hostages still held by Hamas in Gaza who are dying, abandoned over and over again by the Netanyahu and Ben Gvir and Smotrich and Rotman who have blood on their hands. They have blood on their hands. Busha! 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 We are here for all Israelis on the streets who are beaten, harassed, silenced, arrested, and humiliated by the Ben Gvir police or violent thugs. For all those raising their voices against the government, against the war, for hostage deal now and elections now. As long as this government is in power, there will be no rebuilding, no healing, and no way forward. We are here for every child and civilian in Gaza who has been killed by indiscriminate bombing and revenge killings, for all who are being starved as a weapon of war, for aid workers and doctors who have been killed, for all Palestinians and Israelis who had to flee their homes, for Palestinians in the West Bank living under Jewish terror, having their villages burned, they're vandalized by settlers with military escort, and have their land stolen and movement severely restricted. Netanyahu and Sinwar talk of victory while promoting destruction and suffering. Netanyahu and Sinwar are leading death cults who believe in exclusivity over the land and over domination. We saw this week the culture of Israeli settler supremacy committing more pogroms and Jewish terrorism. Videos of Israeli soldiers watching as settlers torch homes and cars following the murder of a 14-year-old Jewish boy. A systemic and widespread collective punishment with the support of the state. We saw them beat up known Israeli journalists for documenting their crimes. The culture of religious nationalism and Jewish supremacy birthed dark forces, now consuming the land and all of its people in a dark vision of religious wars, extremism, and megalomania. Supremacy and violence will not keep us safe. It will destroy everything we hold dear. That's why we say, stop the war now, before more children die. Stop the war. Netanyahu's total victory means total destruction. Netanyahu will hide in the bunker of the home of his Republican donor in Israel. We saw that last night like a coward. His white supremacist son will be safe in Miami. We know that too. But for the rest of Israelis and Palestinians in the land, only peace will bring security. Only peace will bring security. Thank you all for being tonight. Keep your voices heard. Keep speaking up for peace, for the end of the war, for freedom and equality for all people from the river to the sea. Our fates are connected. Our destiny are connected. None of us are free until all of us are free. This is true today. This will be true tomorrow. will be true forever. Only together, only collective liberation will set us all free from forces of exclusivity, supremacy, racism, bigotry, and fanaticism. Only together we can be free. People in Israel, Palestine, here in America, and all over the world. Fight the forces of hate, of supremacy, of exclusivity, because only together we can all be free and safe and prosperous. Thank you for being here.
From the river to the sea, all deserve equality. From the river to the sea, all deserve equality.
From the river to the sea, all deserve equality.
From the river to the sea, all deserve equality.
From the river to the sea, all deserve equality.
From the river to the sea, all deserve equality.
From the river to the sea, all deserve equality.
From the river to the sea, all deserve equality.
End the war now!
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 Our futures are intertwined, Israel and Palestine!
Our futures are intertwined, Israel and Palestine.
Our futures are intertwined, Israel and Palestine!
Our futures are intertwined, Israel and Palestine.
Our futures are intertwined, Israel and Palestine!
Our futures are intertwined, Israel and Palestine.
Our futures are intertwined, Israel and Palestine!
Our futures are intertwined, Israel and Palestine.
There is no military solution!
There is no military solution.
There is no military solution!
There is no military solution.
There is no military solution!
There is no military solution.
There is no military solution!
Shalom. Good afternoon. Salamu alaikum. I don't know who here is Israeli, who here might be Palestinian, who is Jewish or human, but thank you for being here on this afternoon in this circle that believes in hope. Such powerful words were said here today by Rabbi Jill, by Gili, by Aaron. My name is Amichai. I'm a rabbi who's Israeli-American living here in New York. And today I will not repeat the prophetic words of protest that our leaders have already shared today. I want to share with you a very short story that maybe brings some hope, some sense of consolation, and even, if you will, a taste of liberation. In just a few nights, many of us are going to be sitting around the Seder tables. A Passover that is going to be different than all other nights and all other years, in which we have to lean into a reimagined narrative of liberation. The liberation of the past, the liberation of right now, and the untold liberation of the future that it's on us to co-create. Liberation for all, because our futures are intertwined. That is not the liberation story I grew up with. Growing up religious, Zionist in Israel, the Passover story was about the story of the Jewish people, what we went through, the traumas that are real, the memories of enslavement that are real, and why that brought us to the promised land and to the sense of freedom. But now I know that when I sit around the table, and wherever you will be, we have to tell a larger story. we have to include the liberation of the Jewish people and the Palestinians. We have to tell the liberation story of all humans who deserve dignity and justice, home and security. We have to expand our sense of the story of liberation. Last night, like many of you, I followed with bated breath as my mother and siblings, family and friends in Israel and in Palestine spent a sleepless night under the threat of missiles. I don't know if any of us here has had that sense before, of being in your bed or your home or your shelter or backyard if you don't have one, knowing that there are missiles on their way to you. Back in '91, as a young Israeli in Tel Aviv, the Scuds from Iraq were on their way. And I remember well the horror. This is the horror that we must prevent. Not just from tonight, but for all nights. Not just in Israel, but also in Gaza, that has endured many, many nights and days of fear of what is coming from the sky. So here's what we need to do, my friends, is first lean into solidarity. I ask you, those who are here today, to reach out to your friends and family in Israel today, just with a hug. It was a really bad night. And reach out to people who you know, or people you know who know people in Gaza, and people struggling throughout the West Bank, and just say, I am with you in solidarity. As a human family, it's on us to show up for each other, with each other, at this time of pain. Start there. Despite political divides, some people consider what we're doing today, what I'm doing here today, treason against my Israeli family, because I am calling for bilateral ceasefire and bringing back the hostages and humanitarian aid and a negotiated solution that will offer dignity to all. For some, that is too much. For some, it's not enough. And yet we call on solidarity with all so we can end the sorrow with a new vision that perhaps does not yet exist, but slowly it is getting there. The second word I want to say is de-escalation. You heard it here. We have to be part of the de-escalation movement to insist that no war will win, that an eye for an eye leaves everybody blind, that whatever Israel does next must secure the people living there, but not with more violence. De-escalation is what we are praying for this week. And finally, the story, took me a little longer to get there, about liberation. I don't know what and how you all will do this coming Passover. It's a complicated one. What I'm going to do this year, like I've done in the past, is divide the Seder into two. And I'm going to ask half the group to tell the story of the Exodus from the point of view of the Hebrews. But I'm going to ask the other half to tell the story from the point of view of the Egyptians. And then let's listen to each other in solidarity with occupied and occupier, with victim and victimizer, with oppressed and oppressor, knowing that in our solidarity, we carry the same story of the hope for liberation. So here's the story, and it comes from Amos Oz, the late Israeli author and a peace fighter, if ever there was one, who believed in a better hope. He tells the story of a person who's standing in the sink and washing dishes one night and watches from across the street as a shoe drops from a windowsill onto a tree and gets stuck on a branch. Just a shoe, just a shoelace, just a branch, and the shoe gets stuck there. And that person stands there washing the dishes and says, well, there goes that shoe. A day, a week, a month, a year goes by and more. And one evening that person is standing again at the sink and washing another dish, and that shoe has become part of the landscape. It's all there is. But to their surprise and shock, the shoe falls to the ground. That's all. A shoe falls. And they realize that whole time they were privy to see the shoe get stuck on a branch and make its way to liberation on the ground. That whole time the shoe was not static. The SHU was plotting its liberation. It was working with gravity, ever so slowly, to unknot the knot, to undo what we call in Israel the plonter, a knot of mythic proportions. So friends, our job of liberation is not to lose hope. Like this shoe, and like this shoelace, like the tree branch, and like all of us together, we have to be at it, to keep coming back here, to keep believing in a solution, to be in solidarity with peacemakers and the heroic fighters for peace everywhere, to keep believing this Passover night and all nights that we can make a difference, that the shoe can drop, that liberation can and must happen, and in our lifetime we can end the occupation. We can be part of a long-term negotiation. We can create a new vision where Palestinians and Israelis, Christians and Muslims and Jews and others live in the Holy Land in peace. This vision is possible. It's on us to make it happen. Our liberation is tied with everybody's liberation. And this Passover, let us lift this liberation high and wide and far and loud. We've got this, even if we have to be, like our ancestors, immensely patient. Thank you for being here today. Let's be here every day, at least once a week, and may this be a season for everybody of real liberation. Amen.
Thank you so much for coming. We'll be here every week, Sunday, 4 p.m. until the war ends. If you're not on our WhatsApp group, we have a silent group where we only do announcements, so please scan this barcode. Otherwise, you can follow us on Instagram, Israelis for Peace. Thank you again for coming. And all the signs go to the back. Thank you.